Thank you for being here tonight. If you don't know, the Lit and Loose Book Club is a book club. It's a part of the Lit and Loose Festival. We read the books of Mexican and U.S. American authors, and then chat with those authors, and then get to see them and hear more from them during the Lit and Loose Festival, which I'm really excited to announce that our 2021 Chicago Lit and Loose Festival will take place November 1st through the 6th. It's going to be a hybrid festival with online and in-person events. And this year's host for our live magazine show is the University of Chicago's Logan Center for the Arts. If you want to learn more about the festival and participants and programs, please sign up for our newsletter and follow us on social media. There's going to be some links in the chat. And same goes for the book club. If you want to read some of the book club books and get some book club announcements, there's going to be a link in the chat as well. Tonight, our guests will be in conversation with each other, and afterwards, we'll hold a Q&A with Daniel Borzutzky. So please submit any questions you want to ask Daniel in the chat. I'm going to introduce our guests, and then I'm going to hand it over to them. And like I said, you'll see our guests in conversation discussing Daniel's book, and then we'll have a little portion at the end for Q&A. So again, just another reminder: submit your questions in the chat, and we'll get those to Daniel. So I'll begin introducing Daniel Borzutzky. Daniel Borzutzky is the author of 2021 Lit and Loose Book Club Selection, written after a massacre in the year 2018. By Coffeehouse Press, alongside with several other poetry collections, including the Book of Interfering Bodies and the Murmurs of the Rotten Carcass Economy, the Performance of Becoming Human, winner of the 2016 National Book Award, and Lake Michigan, a finalist for the 2019 Griffin International Poetry Prize. His translation of Galo Gigliotto's Valdivia received the National Translation Award. He has also translated books by Chilean poets Raúl Zurita and Jaime Luis Wenun. He teaches at the University of Illinois at Chicago and is a Lit and Loose artistic director. Our special guest author and visual artist is painter and poet Valerie Mejer Caso. She was born in Mexico City into a family of European immigrants. She is the author of the poetry collections Edinburgh Notebook by Action Books, translated by Michelle King Montero, Reign of the Future, also by Action Books, translated by C.D. Wright, Forrest Gander, and Alexander Zellman, De la Ola, El Atajo, Geografías de Niebla, Esta Novela Azul, which was translated by Michelle King Montero as This Blue Novel, and Ante el Ojo de Cicople, her book De Elefante a Elefante won the Spanish government's Gerardo Diego 1966 International Award. So I'm going to hand it over to Daniel and Valerie.
Hola, Daniel.
Hi, Valerie. Hola, hola, hola. Thank you. Thank you, Miguel. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks to Lit and Loose. And thank you, Valerie. ¿Cómo estás?
So good. Living in front of a creek of mud with a transformer that just got a few hours ago in Mexico. But good. All good here. I'm very happy to see you. You're in Pittsburgh, no? In your farm.
I am in Pittsburgh visiting family here, yes. And
So,
you lost electricity today?
lack of electricity. Transformer blew up like a few hours ago, and we won't come back. So my night is gonna be made of candles. Very sophisticated. Yeah, that's gonna be
I think if you can speak a little louder, we're having trouble hearing.
Voy a hablar más fuerte. Sí.
Sí.
Habíamos pensado que tú leyeras primero, nos enseñaras la portada de tu libro. ¿Lo tienes ahí?
Sí, aquí está.
A ver, okay.
The cover is by Cecilia Vicuña.
Wow.
One of her quipus of of a glacier from South America, which I think the glacier is no longer with us. But anyway, Cecilia is part of the book. And so should I read to begin?
Yeah, and she's one of the people that the book is dedicated to, no? Cecilia
Yeah,
Vicuña.
the book is dedicated to Cecilia Vicuña and to Raúl Zurita.
To the heroes. It says it's the heroes. No? Yeah.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
I'll read a piece to begin. Valerie, if you didn't hear, is broadcasting from her phone in Mexico, and she lost power and is subject to a generator, which is also not functioning very well. So hopefully she will make it through the event. And thank you for being with us. Okay, so I will read the final portion of the book. Every piece is entitled "Written After a Massacre in the Year 2018," and I'll read the first one of those pieces. It should be like 3 or 4 minutes of reading. Written after a massacre in the year 2018. This has an epigraph from Coleridge, who writes, "To see is only a language," from his poem written during a temporary blindness in the year 1799. And can you guys hear me okay? Thumbs up. Cool. Okay. To see is only a language, Coleridge. 1. To see is only a language, and I can't speak it today. They've wrapped a heavy blanket around my face. The cops deliver the influenza, but before injection, they need to wait for someone to fix the central heating. No one wants to interrogate me until they fix the central heating. I chatter with the broken refugees in this prison, our faces wrapped in darkness. 2. A list of frozen bodies, a lost list of unclaimed bodies, a lost list of privatized bodies, a lost list of bodies they seized. We are the lost list, but we don't know where they keep us. 3. The border bisecting the infected fumes of the infested factories. The utopia of statelessness, the utopia of transience. They tell us Lake Michigan is the Central America of the Midwest. They send us here so we can share hepatitis swabs with dirty immigrants. Hold on to your DNA, refugee citizens. The only question about life is, what does it mean to live it? 4. Financiers selling bodies, speculators selling blood and sperm. They slink into the webs of the city. They tell me I don't have the right to grieve over my own body. They tell me to pray and to grieve is illegal. 5. What did he shout before he massacred the grandmothers? What did he shout before he massacred the worshippers? What did he shout before he massacred the nurses, the silent, praying skeletons? He was on his way to the river the blood would never reach. He was on his way to the Nazi meetup the blood would never reach. The stock market just opened. The exchange value of a slaughtered Jew is like the exchange value of a slaughtered Jew. If your body is on fire, a private firefighter will put it out much faster than a state one. The death of a sensuous lung. 6. The song of the ram's horn by the river. The early Americans marched to meet the caravan in the desert. An authoritative body tells me I can't disembody my body without disembodying the collective body's body. And if I disembody the collective body's body, then I will have to disembody the imagined community's body. And if I disembody the imagined community's body, then I will need to ignore the fields of multiple destruction today. I dip my finger into a cup of blood and wish for plagues to destroy the empire. I need to destroy the nation state. But when will I find the time? 7. The bourgeoisie pay taxes to kill immigrants, bathe in the cryptocurrency of a bank that will never exist. 8. The song of atonement at the river sings, pray harder and the massacre will go away. Pray harder, and the massacre will not turn into another massacre. Pray harder, and the rich people will become poor people. Pray harder, and the slaughterer will be turned into a butterfly. Pray harder, and the 30 million white males with guns will turn into a river of testicles rolling down the street. When they repossess my body, my heart will soak in petroleum, and my mouth will be a baby in a cage. The poetry of the shattered bone and the flame of the human document. 9. The catastrophe is caressed ad nauseum. The greased up multitudes are not afraid to say the same thing over and over again. Death leaks from their shoes, and the slaughtered Jews are like slaughtered Jews. I dream about returning to a prayer that doesn't exist. It disappeared yesterday when they assassinated the morning and turned our life into spectacle. 10. You hid behind the soldiers with machine guns running down the street. You were praying for plagues and wishing your parents would come out of the building alive. The worshippers of the dead trees knew where there is a first kill, there will be a second. Where there is a third kill, there will be a fourth, a fifth, a 500th. The anecdote destroys the analysis. 11. The emigrants split their bodies into communal assets. To assimilate, they must stand by the river with a prophylactic angel in their hands disguised as a rocketing hedge fund. In the rupture, in the rubble, in the pathological eye sockets, in the counter odyssey of the whites of your eyes, in the parliamentary assault rifle, the parliamentary machine gun splatter, the illegal bodies in cages are painted over by the analytics and mathematics of the hemisphere. How do you quantify the broken toddlers rolling on the ground? How do you quantify the murmuring grief of the Americas? 12. Marines medicate mothers and mix their milk with mononucleosis. Millionaires multiply in the machinery of mourning, manufacturing mausoleums for martyred Marxists in Mercedes. Middle managers mistake manipulative merchants for munificent moralists. A military massacre on the municipal motorway is like a military massacre on the municipal motorway. Metaphysical mayors mediate the mythology of mystical markets while monitoring the murders of migrants. My mouth is filled with worms. And I'll stop there for now.
So when I hear a lot of the things that you write and read, I remember how you were in a conversation saying how you get things out of context. But this has a big context for you. That it happened in Pittsburgh. You are from Jewish ascendance. I don't know if this was a place where your parents would go or not, or that it was familiar for you. As you say, the anecdote kills the analysis. So I'm sorry to make the analysis by asking you these personal questions.
No, sure. Yeah, I mean, so the massacre in the year 2018 refers in the main to the massacre at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, which is around the corner from where I currently am. I grew up going to that synagogue. My family were members there. When I'm in Pittsburgh, I drive by it or walk by it several times a day. People in my family knew were affected by the shootings there. So, you know, in many ways, like I've spent my writing life writing about violence and writing about and racist violence as well, and yet I kind of wasn't prepared for how this was going to affect me and how kind of destroyed I felt in the days following that. And so the piece I just read, was kind of the first piece I wrote immediately following, or in the days following, the the shooting, and in some ways, writing was a means of processing that event, but in a different way. Like I can't quite even sort of remember what was going on in my body as it was happening. I mean, there are moments where like the writing is like channeled by other forces, I think, and this felt like one of them.
Yeah, it feels like this thing that you write things. There's that dilemma in the book I found, dilemma of biography, that there might be some release in putting in evidence that biography, but that it actually makes you feel much worse. And that reminds me of something Zurita said in El Día Más Blanco. It's a memoir of his childhood where he said, I wrote it with a hope of feeling better after. And I actually felt worse. No?
Valerie and I are both very close with Raúl Zurita, the Chilean poet. Is that, might be, did I meet you through Raúl?
We met there with your reading of El Canto a Su Amor Desaparecido, the action books presentation at this big place in the AWP in Washington. I don't know if you remember that all the curtains had horses painted that were running towards you guys. So it had this surrealistic element. And there's this moment where Raúl is saying, ah, and then you have to also yell. As part of the translation is that something completely like a scream, no? And I fell in love with that reading completely. And then we met and had something to drink, and from there on, 11 years ago, that you can tell, that are here.
But yeah, I mean, to answer the question, I don't know that writing, that writing makes you feel any better. I feel like, but I think it, in a I don't know, global existential sense. But I do feel like that. I mean, it doesn't take the pain away. Let's say that, right? And maybe that's Raúl's point. But in this case, it was a means of like channeling my anger, I guess. And to that extent, to that extent, I had an outlet. I think that's all I would say. I don't know that that makes it any better. But I suppose psychoanalytically there is some sort of release that happened through the writing. I don't know. But does it make the pain go away? No. I think that is definitely correct.
We as readers, I don't know about all of you guys as readers, you feel the river of release of anger of a writer. And yet you don't feel, there's moments, hateful moments, angry moments, but you feel that the undercurrent stream in this river is love. And I think this is revealing in the last pages of your book. I don't know if you know which poem I'm referring to, but there's the one that like replaces its faith on love. Do you remember
that replaces
its faith on love, because there's this river, events, and it's kind of, I was thinking that it's kind of like a painting of El Bosco, no? Where the together with many words and there's creatures developing in new creatures, and kind of there's a science fiction feeling, but there is a mainstream of, if not love, compassion, tenderness, something.
Yeah, I mean, if I learned anything, if I've like, I feel like I've learned a lot from Raúl, but I feel like the thing that I have learned most from him is anger and love are not incompatible. I don't know
Yeah.
that one's ability to kind of write about the things that you care the most about, to do it, and I won't say requires, but to do it with a sense of love is a way of making one feel, I don't know, a part of it, connected to it, rather than like it's simply like something you are like analyzing from the outside, right? It is something that is in you, and that reminds you that you are thinking about relationships, and that you're thinking about other people, and that is a sort of thing that makes these moments tolerable.
In your poems, we all notice, all your readers, that there are multitudes and multitudes. And of course, we want to pick your brain of how do you hold this humanity where some are changing costumes and developing into new creatures, challenging the system through the juxtaposition of words. I'm talking about your strategy, but also your connection with this humanity.
Well, thank you. I don't know about the.
If you want to read something else, that would be good.
Do I want to read something else? Sure, I would love to read something else. And I'll think about something which might address the question you're asking in a different way. I'll read a poem that is called Day Number 423. It's probably about the same length as the other. And actually, so as I was saying earlier, I kind of wanted to have this book be like an exorcism of the year 2018. It felt really important to me that there be that I like get rid of 2018, and I wanted to finish it, but then 2020 happened, and I was like, oh, like all the years suck. But everything in the book was completed in 2018 except for this piece, which I wrote in 2020. I think that is correct to say. Day number 423. The beach is burning in the middle of the city, and they tell us the lake is not dead, but we know it has disappeared into the chemical blankness, and the sand is full of disease, and the water is full of petroleum, and the water is full of bodies with cadmium and arsenic in their ears. They have lead in their mouths. They are falling out of the sky, or they are bones in the earth. They are clinging to something. They are clinging to each other. They are clinging to the air, to the trees, to the breath, to the night. And you are a wounded shoulder in the hypnosis of the emergency. You are shrapnel and inexhaustible love. You wear a mold mask of shame. You see shame in the growth of the willow trees, in the locust trees, in the red cedars. Your bones are martyrs, and on the other side of the beach there is water, but you can't see it. They will not let you near it, and the waves are frozen, and you feel them like fat or hair or dead skin on your body, and there is the irritating hum of time and death. And the living who are dying of so much living, of so much time and death. They are searching for life. They are ghosting the ghosts who chant life, life like a curse word, a forbidden word, a disease word. And you want to see the lake again, but they say you need the right code, the right mask, the right spacesuit. And you want to see your child again, but you need an illusion, a canticle, an executive order, a cheek, a chin, a tomb, a monument to the earth, a monument to the hysteria of the afternoon, a monument to the rhythm of the sand, a monument to the disappearance of the bodies who are breaking in some other lake, who are breaking on some other beach, who are rioting in some other death march. The translators of the silence do not know how to translate the translators of the sand, and in the frustration that grows between them, there is something so ordinary, a corpse so ordinary that no one wants to disturb it. No one comes to appraise it. No one knows how much it costs or where it has been fabricated. It is day number 423, and the sky has disappeared into another sky, and the beach is shrieking the shriek of 1,000 broken shoulders, and I am dying from too much life in the blankness that, unravels into the economy of a beating, a burning, the guilt of this innocent lung, the shame of this atrophied bone, this bloodied body, this bloodied child, this blank that consumes the image of how you understand who you are, which is wrapped up in the image of how I understand who I am. And you don't want to die today, but you might. And I don't want to be alone today, and I don't want to die from so much life. It has given me so much. To all of us, we break. We are broken. We are little imitations of our corpses of eternity. Don't wait for us to die. It is day number 423, and shame covers my body with grief, and grief covers my body with shame. Only 23 people died here yesterday, and I was not one of them. And today, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow, and today, I will not be one of them. And shame will cover my body, and grief will live in my face, and shame, grief will form in my teeth. Grief, shame will blow air into my mouth, and I won't die alone today. I'll eat bread, I'll eat rice, and kiss my child and say, thank you, thank you, thank you. To salt and to sweat and to boredom, let peace explode on my body. I am alive and condemned and undone.
Bravo.
Gracias.
So there are few poems where there's a lot of I.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to, mostly a they, no? A they, a he. This is, I was thinking for a weird reason in Miguel Hernandez.
Mm.
And the place of el yo, a mí me pasa, el yo estoy absorbiendo esto, ¿no? I am absorbing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you say you're channeling, no? Something.
Mm-hmm.
Not to analyze what you're going through, but. And I, in contraposition to this, I'm very interested in the phrase of saying the anecdote kills the analysis or defeats the analysis, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, when you're like in a meeting with people and like everybody wants to leave. No, well, there's that, but where like people begin to kind of tell personal stories that begin to like obscure the larger issue that is happening because they can only kind of see the situation. They only want to see the situation through their personal story, right? And I often think about how there is this like weird relationship between like in those cases, right, where there's this sort of weird relationship between trying to arrive at like a communal consensus and how one sort of personal experience gets in the way of it. And I think that was one idea, I think, that I feel like is sort of always thinking about. But I think too, maybe more pertinently to something like a shooting, where it has become so anecdotal, right? And that is, I guess, the kind of reality of these types of shootings, but also kind of hate crimes, and that they get absorbed as being anecdotal rather than specific events because they happen so much, right? But to, of course, the people who are affected by it, they're the most important and most specific things that can ever happen, right? And so I think the sort of question is like one of trying to make those events not be like pure anecdotes, right? Of trying to like make them be something that is alive and real, and to think and to, I don't know, remember that there's actual real people affected by this, and that in some sense, like the analysis of why these things happen is completely sort of irrelevant to the people to whom it happens or to the people who survive, right?
And definitely, I think that in your book, both things are happening. You are making emphasis in the individual, in the specific anecdote, in every one of the characters, and at the same time, in this big thing that is currently happening. And I think we have time for you to read Murmur. I think this is kind of a short poem.
Sure. I can do that. Murmur. What is the voice? Who is the voice? When is the voice? Does it murmur backwards? Does it murmur with mud in its mouth, with blood in its mouth? There are blades in its mouth, dogs in its mouth. There is a nation in its mouth, the border in its mouth. There is a wall at the border in its mouth. There is a god at the border in its mouth. There is an imploding island in its mouth, an imploding economy in its mouth. There is a hemisphere in its mouth. I see the desert in its rotten carcass mouth. I see the murderers of the morning in its rotten carcass mouth. I see money. There's money. I have $5. No, I have $6. I need to buy the forest. I need to buy the blood trees. I need to buy the blood bush. I need more blood dogs. I have $5. I have $6. I don't know if I am hunted or if I am hunted. Hunting. I eat my skin. I chew my knuckles. I suck my fingers. I hear my name in the wind. I hear the name of my God in the wind. They say I don't believe in God. They say I am secular, pagan, lacking in faith, but no, but no. The words I use for my God are different from the words they use for their God. I can't find my fingers in the dark. I can't find my tongue in the dark. I can't find my brain in the dark. The carcass economy sustains me in the privatized darkness of dark. The mud sustains me. The blood data sustains me. The common law blood data sustains me. The welfare state no longer sustains me. I see my slaughter mouth against the spittle of the hungry baby at my feet. I see my rat brain against the spittle of the wailing toddler with fangs at my feet. The toddler eating soap off my psoriasis feet. The toddler eating mud off my money feet, my blood feet. The dirt toddler, the wound toddler, the blood toddler. There is a box, a blood box, a money box, and they will put me in it. There is a box, and when I can't buy the forest, I will put myself in it, and they will ship me somewhere because I can't afford to build a shack in the forest. I have $5. I have $6. The conglomerate that owns the trees won't let me sit in the shade. The suit and tie that owns the water won't let me have a sip. I only have $5. I only have $6, and I need to buy roots, soil, trees, wind. But no, and no, but no, and no. I must smash my face into the welfare state. I must smash my face into the fist of the cop who beats me at the corner of Montrose and Kedzie. I must smash my face into the early American who hunts me at the corner of Belmont in California. I must smash my face into the language of money whose only translation is into more money. I must smash my face into the money drone, the health drone, the drone of infinite scrutiny. And when they strap me into the chair and shove the peace-seeking food wires into my mouth, when they shove the milk wires into my mouth, when they feed me vitamins and minerals against my will, I will offer them my last $5 to die. Here, take my last $6 and let me die the privatized death of one who hasn't lived. And as I smash my face into the drone tomb, the health tomb, the tomb of infinite scrutiny, I will remember to smile when they love me. I will remember to smile when they feed me, to smile when they beat me, to smile when they kill me. But
Bravo. So with this, I think we close. Thank you, Daniel Borzutzky, Sarah Dodson, Miguel Jimenez. Thank you, Luz and Light. And thank you so much for this. It's this book that really shows you that all of these tragedies and calamities that are coming your way are mirroring some part of you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Gracias. Gracias.
Miss you. Come see us in Chicago.
Saludos a todos desde México.
Gracias.
Okay. Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
All right, so I'm back because I have some questions that were coming in, some from directly from the book club. So I'll start with this one, Daniel. This question came from the book club. I think there's kind of two questions that I see here that kind of speak to each other. and I think they're about process. If you could indulge us in the process of writing these poems. The first question talks about they found that there was repetition. As we just, I'm really glad you just read murmur. There's a repetition, even some repeated words like the word murmur throughout some of the poems. There's a murmur that comes out of a dead body. There's murmurs in our society. And then the second question, and maybe you can give us an answer. I don't know if these are different, but there's another question here about protests. That many of these poems sounded like a protest. Um, were you inspired by some of the things going on during these times? Some of those protests on the streets. So I'm wondering, yeah, if you could speak to that, either the repetition of these poems or protests during this time.
Mm. I mean, in some sense, the repetition takes place over several books. I have a book called In the Murmurs of the Rotten Carcass Economy. The first poem I read has a line, the murmuring, how do we quantify the murmuring grief of the Americas? I think the title of the book, the working title of the book I'm writing now is called The Murmuring Grief of the Americas. And so I think there is both like repetition at the level of like lines, which I don't know, generate a kind of like rhythm and energy that I feel like I need when I'm writing often. But also, I guess over the course of books, and that is, I guess, a way of saying that, I don't know, I guess I have separate books, but maybe they're all just really one big book. If like, and also murmurs sort of goes back to Juan Rulfo and Pedro Páramo, his novel, which was originally going to be called Los Murmullos. And Juan Rulfo kind of famously didn't write a lot of books. He was sort of when asked about why he wrote so little, I think his answer was something like, why do I need to write lots of books? Like, isn't it enough to write one really good book? And also the murmurs in Juan Rulfo are the murmurs of the dead, and who are completely sort of integrated into life. And I won't go too far into the Juan Rulfo hole, but his way of integrating the dead into life was very important to me, and I guess has sort of always been a part of my own writing in lots of ways, and my own thinking about how we live with the dead integrated into our lives, which perhaps Mexican culture is more accustomed to doing than that in the U.S., right? But nevertheless, here we are living sort of amid the dead, right, in lots of different ways. So that's one answer. The answer of protests, and was I thinking about protests? I mean, again, I was, this book was, as I was editing the book, and the endnote of the book certainly refers to the protests of 2020 in the aftermath of the shooting of George Floyd in particular. I don't know that I was thinking in 2018 of like a particular protest, but I was thinking about I mean, the writing positions itself, I suppose, I don't know if protest is the right word, but writing like at the conjunction of capitalism and state violence. And so I don't know how else to how to kind of not think about those things, and I don't know how to kind of not think about those things from often a position of rage, I guess.
Yeah, and on that note of like living amongst the dead and rage, there's a question here about did you feel any weight writing about sort of all the chaos and all the hate and I mean, we're still living through, but especially during those years that you were writing those poems, um, did you feel any weight while living through it and writing about it? There's a second part to this question about um, how do you balance craft as a poet and anger when you're doing
Mm. Um, um, did I feel weight? Yeah, I'm not sure what sort of weight um, you're thinking about. Do you have any insight into that question?
Yeah, I think this comes from the book club, and people were asking, we're just saying like some of the things you're writing or everything that the book is sort of grappling with is heavy, and if you
Mm.
felt any, I think a lot of people were saying it's really difficult. There was a few writers in the group, and they were saying it's really difficult to write about social justice issues,
Mm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and almost feeling like a responsibility to um, carry those topics into literature. And so if you felt any weight in
Mm.
that sense, yeah.
Mm. Um, um, I don't know that like I don't want to use the word responsibility, because I don't think that that's what it is about, but it's more like um, there are places in the world where like writers get killed for the things that they write, or tortured, or imprisoned. Right, in the U.S., we just get ignored. Um, um, and so having some formation out of um, a tradition of South American literature, which saw itself often as um, writing for a larger group of people, and that carried a kind of danger to it. It uh, I suppose that is often that was the kind of work that I was most drawn to and was reading a lot of. Um, but um, but I don't know. I guess the other part of it is I sort of think there's like a false distinction that is made between the political and the aesthetic, and like in kind of U.S. Creative writing culture. I think we are often taught that those things don't correspond, and that you are um, sacrificing your craft or your aesthetics by writing about things that are important to you. I think that's what it comes down to. And I guess this sort of gets to the second question. I don't see a kind of contradiction between those two things, right? I think that it's not so much a question of like writing about um, things that are heavy. It's a question about like writing about what's important to you, and or about what's important to me. And I don't know how to not do that. And I don't know why one would want to do that. So I think um, that's a partial answer, I guess.
Well, okay, I think we have time for a couple of more questions.
Sure.
This one is, there's no mention of Trump or those in his administration. However, there is language that he used during his term, shithole country, and some of the logic that they used in attempt to justify the brutal treatment of undocumented peoples.
Mm-hmm.
What was the decision for not using his name? Was it still the necessity for historical record, the importance of recording that without giving someone like him space in your book?
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess the first thing I would say is to do that would be to um, simplify the cause. Right. I mean, as I said, I've sort of been writing the same book and thinking about the same things. I've been thinking about immigration, the undocumented, the rhetoric, the anti-rhetoric towards anti-immigrant rhetoric over several books for, I don't know, 10, 12 years now. And that was not born in 2016. After when the performance for Becoming Human received the National Book Award, it was like the week after Trump was elected, and there was sort of like this question about like that book's prescience or relationship to the present, and I sort of had to like keep reminding people that I wrote that book like squarely in the Obama years, and it was as much about probably more about immigration than this book is, right? So, it's not to say that like things didn't get worse in the Trump years, and that the rhetoric got more became more open. Like that's what happened, right? That it was being spouted in ways, but it wasn't hidden before either. And I think that is what I would say, right? Is that the sort of Trump years witnessed like liberals discovering that racism was like completely built into the fabric of everyday life, but that doesn't mean it wasn't before that, right? So I think that's part of it. There is a poem that is directly about the wall, which and the notion of yes, shithole countries. But yeah, I mean, I think that's what it would. I think it would sort of falsely date it in some ways to say it was like specific to the years 2016 to 2020.
I see. This will be our last question. This one actually came from the book club. The question was about how a lot of the poems in this book seem to bring to our attention that living through neoliberalism, we lose a lot of things beyond sort of like our freedom, or that we lose ourselves, we lose our capacity to love, to empathize. And the question here is, was there something that, and that was something, before I asked the question, there was something that our book club talked about, of how some of those things are present. And one of the readers was curious, was there something that, and I think it's actually a similar question that Valerie asked earlier, was there something that writing these poems revealed to you that you didn't expect?
That I didn't expect. And you're thinking like particularly about like capitalism.
Or living during sort of these times. Or maybe across your books, as you've mentioned, you've been writing, sort of paying attention to these issues and their effect on humanity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's something that I didn't expect, right? But I think there, like this book, I sort of began by saying that I was like I'm always writing separate books. Actually, I had like a very different idea about this book when I started writing it, and I wanted it to be centered around that poem called "The Block of Ice Is Ours," which was referring to a border conflict between Argentina and Chile in the 80s and 90s about a territory in the Patagonia region that they were fighting over, which was literally like a abandoned block of ice. And it almost escalated into a military conflict. And I had like memories and mismemories of this event. And so I was thinking a lot about trying to think about like a border crossing in different contexts, and border conflict in different contexts. And I guess like no matter how sort of far away I got from the U.S. context, it sort of always came back um, to money in different ways, right? And I was sort of always coming back to that, I guess. So I don't know if that's like something I learned, but that just kept happening. That when you try to talk about anything else, you just end up talking about money.
Hmm. Well, on that note, on the money note, we'll close out. Thank you so much, Daniel Borzutzky. Thank you so much, Valerie Mejer Caso, for joining us from Mexico. Thank you both for being here tonight. Um, and I'm gonna close out with a few.
Can I just say a last thank you?
Yeah, yeah.
Thank Miguel. Thank you so much for choosing the book, and to the members of the book club for reading it, for your thoughtful questions. Like in times when one is feeling low, to like know that like actually people are reading your book and talking about it like means more than you might imagine. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No, we loved it. The book club loved it. So again, the book, and I have it with me here. The book is Written After a Massacre in the Year 2018. You can find it in your local bookstore. Support your local indie bookstore. You can find it in Chicago if you're in Chicago with our book club partner, the Pilsen Community Books. So thanks again to Daniel and Valerie. Just a closing announcements here. I just want to do one last thank you actually to Johnny Barra at Q4 Media for tonight's live stream. To Jaime Garza of Los Santos for the opening music, Flotando by Alma Fuerte, his solo project. And to Pilsen Community Books, as I mentioned, for being our official book club partner. Find book club titles in their online store and visit their physical shop in Chicago. You can see a link in the chat for their store. And check out our website, litlose.org. Again, that's litlose.org. And sign up for our newsletter to learn more about this November's Lit and Loose Festival. You can also learn more about the book club there, as I mentioned earlier. So check it out, and we hope to see you for the next book club, and keep an eye out for announcements for our festival. Thank you very much, and have a good night.